No one could stop them. The human and the princess stood together. Each city seemed to hover effortlessly above the forested canyons, their foundations glowing softly with energy drawn from the planet's mysterious core. Birds with feathers like liquid crystal glided between the towers, and rivers of light sparkled in the valleys below. From the top of one of the highest spires, Princess Elara watched the horizon, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. For centuries, the Lycerans had lived in harmony with their floating cities and the energy that sustained them. But recently, small tremors had begun to ripple through the city foundations, and the glowing rivers below had dimmed slightly. The citizens whispered about it in the markets and streets, worried that the balance they had always relied upon was shifting. Elara, unlike most rulers, refused to panic. She believed that every problem had a solution, and that understanding it fully was more important than reacting in fear. Meanwhile, a human starship glided quietly into Lysera's orbit. It was a small exploration vessel, sleek and polished, its design simple yet elegant. Humans had become known across the galaxy as explorers, inventors, and problem solvers, and their reputation for courage and intelligence had reached even distant planets like Lysera. The ship's pilot, a young man named Evan, peered through the viewing window as the floating cities came into view. His eyes widened in wonder. He had seen many worlds, but nothing compared to this, a planet that combined beauty, technology, and harmony in ways he had never imagined. As the ship descended toward the landing platform, Evan's mind raced with questions. How did these cities float? What kind of energy powered them? And why had the Lycerans built their homes suspended above the ground rather than on it? He knew that answers to these questions might change not just his mission, but his understanding of what intelligent life could achieve. The landing was smooth, and as Evan stepped out, he was greeted by a delegation of Lycerans, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and formality. They were tall and graceful, with eyes that reflected the colors of the planet's skies. Their clothing shimmered like liquid metal, adjusting slightly with every movement. At the center of the group stood Elara herself, her presence commanding yet warm. Her hair cascaded like silver waterfalls over her shoulders, and her eyes, deep and thoughtful, held a spark of recognition as she looked at Evan. "You must be the human I've heard so much about," Elara said, her voice clear and melodic. "Welcome to Lysera." "I am Princess Elara." Evan bowed slightly, feeling the weight of the moment. "It's an honor, Princess. My name is Evan. I come in peace and with curiosity. I hope to learn from your people as much as I hope to share what humans have discovered." Elara smiled faintly. "Then you are most welcome. I have always believed that understanding comes from dialogue and shared experience. Walk with me, and I will show you our city." As they moved through the streets of the floating city, Evan could not help but marvel at everything around him. Holographic displays floated above the pathways, showing information about energy flows, weather patterns, and city maintenance. Citizens moved gracefully, some carrying small energy devices that hummed softly, others guiding glowing orbs of light that seemed to respond to their thoughts. It was a world where technology and life existed in perfect balance. Elara guided Evan to the edge of one of the platforms, where he could see the vast forests below and the rivers of light weaving through them. "Our energy comes from the core of the planet," she explained. "It is both powerful and delicate. For generations, it has sustained us and allowed our cities to thrive. But recently, it has begun to fluctuate. We do not yet understand why, and we cannot risk a full failure. That is why your visit is timely. Humans are known for their creativity and problem-solving skills. Perhaps you can help us see what we cannot." Evan nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility settle in his chest. "I will do my best, Princess. Together, we can find a solution." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft tremor beneath their feet. The platform quivered slightly and a few citizens nearby gasped. Evan instinctively reached out, steadying himself. Alara's eyes narrowed, but she remained calm. "It's a small tremor," she said, "but it is a sign that the problem is worsening." Without hesitation, she led Evan to the city's research center, a large dome of translucent energy panels that shimmered like water. Inside, scientists and engineers worked at various stations, their faces focused and determined. Energy flows were displayed as streams of light, constantly shifting and adjusting. "This is where we study the core and monitor the stability of our cities," Alara said. "We have tried all conventional methods, but the fluctuations persist. I believe that understanding the core requires a combination of perspectives, ours and yours." Evan observed the energy streams, noting patterns and irregularities. "It seems like the core responds not just to physical inputs but to emotional energy as well," he said. "Perhaps the collective mindset of the citizens affects its stability." Alara's eyes brightened. "You may be right. The Lycerans have always been attuned to the planet, but perhaps we have overlooked how our emotions influence the energy. If so, your human perspective could provide valuable insight." Over the next few days, Evan and Alara worked side by side. They observed the energy core, analyzed data, and explored theories that combined human intuition with Lyceran technology. Evan was amazed at Alara's intellect. She asked questions that challenged his assumption and suggested experiments that were both creative and precise. He, in turn, introduced new methods of problem-solving that the Lycerans had never considered, drawing on human history, science, and imaginative thinking. Despite the growing tension caused by the unstable core, the two of them formed a bond of trust and friendship. They shared stories of their worlds, laughed at minor mishaps, and found comfort in each other's presence. Citizens began to notice the partnership, whispering about how the human and the princess moved through challenges with confidence and respect. One evening, as the twin suns set and bathed the floating cities in golden light, Alara and Evan stood at the edge of the platform, watching the rivers of light shimmer below. "Do you ever wonder," Evan asked, "how a world like this could exist without falling apart?" Alara smiled softly. "It exists because of balance, understanding, and cooperation. The cities float not just on energy but on trust, trust in each other, trust in the planet, and trust in the unknown. That is why we cannot afford fear or despair. We must face every challenge with courage and clarity." Evan nodded, feeling a deep respect for the princess and her people. "Then together, we can find a way to stabilize the core. We may come from different worlds, but our goal is the same." The following morning brought another tremor, stronger than the previous ones. Citizens paused in their daily routines, eyes turning toward the platform where Evan and Alara had been observing the skies. Without hesitation, Alara addressed them. "We face a challenge," she said, her voice steady, "but it is not insurmountable. With calm minds and cooperative hearts, we can protect our cities and our future." Evan added, "We will combine human innovation with Lyceran knowledge. No problem is too great when we work together." The citizens cheered, inspired by their courage and unity. The energy core, though unstable, seemed to respond, pulsing more steadily as if recognizing the determination and harmony of those above it. In the research center, Evan and Alara worked tirelessly. They recalibrated sensors, adjusted energy flows, and developed a method to synchronize human intuition with Lyceran technology. It was an experiment that required patience, creativity, and trust in each other. And as the hours passed, the bond between the human and the princess grew stronger, solidified by shared purpose and mutual respect. By the end of the day, a pattern began to emerge. The energy core's fluctuations, while not fully stabilized, became more predictable. Tremors lessened, and the glowing rivers of light below regained a hint of their former brilliance. Evan allowed himself a small smile. "We're making progress," he said, and Alara nodded in agreement. As night fell, the twin moons rose over Lysera, casting gentle silver light across the floating cities. Evan looked at Elara and realized that their meeting had been more than coincidence. Two worlds, two perspectives, joined by curiosity and courage, had come together to face a challenge that neither could solve alone. Elara's gaze was distant but thoughtful. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "we will continue our work. The core may test us further, but I have faith in what we can achieve together. No one can stop us when we stand united." Evan nodded, feeling a sense of purpose unlike anything he had experienced before. "Together," he agreed. And with that, they looked out over the floating cities, knowing that the first steps of their journey had already begun. A journey that would test their intelligence, courage, and the remarkable potential of humans and Lycerans standing together. The stars above twinkled in silent approval, and somewhere deep within the planet, the energy core pulsed with quiet anticipation. The adventure had only just begun. The following morning, the twin suns of Lysera rose over the floating cities, casting long shadows across the glowing streets and shimmering platforms. The light reflected off the translucent energy panels of the city, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that danced across the walls. Citizens began their daily routines, though the memory of the tremors from the day before lingered in their minds. Whispers floated through the streets about the human who had come from afar and the princess who had chosen to trust him. Evan was already awake, reviewing data from the energy core. The readings were complicated, showing fluctuating pulses of energy that seemed to respond to something beyond mere mechanical operations. He frowned slightly, tracing the patterns with his finger on the glowing holographic display. "The fluctuations aren't random," he said softly to himself. "They seem responsive, almost like they're influenced by the environment." Elara arrived quietly behind him, her presence calm but firm. "Good morning, Evan," she said, her eyes scanning the complex data streams. "Have you discovered anything new?" Evan gestured toward the holograms. "It's as if the core reacts to the emotions and focus of the citizens. When people are calm and cooperative, the energy stabilizes slightly. When fear or panic arises, it becomes more unstable." Elara nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "That confirms what my ancestors believed. Lysera is connected to the hearts and minds of its people. The energy core is not just a physical force, it is part of our life, reflecting our unity and harmony. But it has never failed us like this before. There must be a reason for the sudden instability." Evan tilted his head, considering her words. "Maybe it's not just internal factors. Maybe something in the environment or a rare planetary phenomenon is causing it to fluctuate. We need to examine both possibilities, external and internal." Elara's eyes sparkled with determination. "Then we will do both. Let us visit the energy monitoring towers at the edge of the floating cities. They are closest to the source of the core and will give us the best perspective." They moved through the streets together, passing citizens who glanced at them with curiosity and respect. Children waved excitedly at Evan, fascinated by his human appearance and the stories they had heard of his world. Elara smiled at the small gestures, understanding that hope and confidence could strengthen the energy core as much as any technical adjustment. When they reached the monitoring towers, the view took their breath away. The platform stretched far above the forested canyons below, and the rivers of light snaked through the valleys like glowing threads. The towers themselves were slender but sturdy, equipped with sensors and instruments that measured the planet's energy flow with incredible precision. Evan examined the instruments carefully. "These readings are fascinating," he said. "It's like the planet itself is alive, communicating through energy pulses. We need to be very precise in how we interact with it." Elara nodded. "We must also inspire confidence among the citizens. The energy core responds to them as well. If we can stabilize the city emotionally and intellectually, the technical work will follow more smoothly." They began a careful investigation, moving from one tower to another, checking sensors and recalibrating equipment. Evan suggested methods humans used on Earth to study natural phenomena, patterns, simulations, and small-scale experiments. Alara incorporated these ideas with Lycerin techniques, creating a hybrid method that was both innovative and respectful of the planet's delicate balance. As they worked, small tremors shook the platforms. They were brief, but enough to remind them of the urgency of their task. "We must act quickly," Alara said calmly. "The core will not wait for us to finish our analysis." Evan pointed to a display showing energy spikes emanating from a nearby canyon. "Look at this. The spikes seem to follow a rhythm. Perhaps if we can match our adjustments to the natural rhythm, we can stabilize the energy flow." Alara's eyes lit up. "Yes, synchronization. If the human mind can detect the pattern and the Lycerin technology can amplify it, we may be able to bring stability without forcing the planet's energy." They spent the next few hours developing a method to synchronize their efforts with the energy pulses. Evan used human intuition to predict patterns, while Alara adjusted the Lycerin instruments to amplify those predictions. The system was delicate, requiring perfect timing and focus. One misstep could result in a larger fluctuation, but both of them remained calm and determined. While they worked, a small group of citizens gathered to watch. Some were skeptical, others curious. A young Lycerin boy approached Evan holding a glowing orb. "Can you really help the core, human?" he asked, eyes wide with hope. Evan smiled gently. "We will do our best. But I need your help too. Your hope, calmness, and cooperation will help the planet feel stronger. Can you share your calm thoughts with the core?" The boy nodded and closed his eyes, holding the orb tightly. Other citizens followed his example, closing their eyes and focusing on positive thoughts. Slowly, the energy readings began to show small signs of improvement. Tremors lessened, and the rivers of light below regained some of their brilliance. Alara watched with quiet satisfaction. "This is exactly what I hoped. The human approach combined with our methods is beginning to work, but there is still more to do. We must ensure the stability continues and grows stronger." As the day progressed, Evan and Alara explored the canyon where the spikes had originated. The canyon was deep and wide, lined with crystal formations that glowed faintly with energy. Sensors placed along the walls detected unusual fluctuations, suggesting that the planet's natural formations were interacting with the energy core in unexpected ways. Evan knelt by a crystal formation, studying the readings. "These crystals seem to store energy temporarily," he observed. "They may be amplifying the fluctuations, creating a feedback loop. If we can carefully manage the energy transfer, we can reduce the spikes." Alara examined the formations closely. "Then we must work with the planet, not against it. We will guide the energy through the natural pathways rather than forcing it to comply." Together, they designed a method to redirect the energy pulses safely. Evan suggested subtle adjustments to the human-inspired devices, while Alara used Lycerin instruments to monitor and amplify the corrections. The combination of logic, intuition, and respect for the planet created a system that was delicate yet powerful. Hours passed, and the suns began to set, casting long shadows across the canyon. The floating cities glowed warmly in the fading light, reflecting the progress of their efforts. Tremors had lessened significantly, and the rivers of light below pulsed steadily once more. Evan and Alara stood side by side at the edge of the canyon, looking at the glowing formations. "We've made real progress today," Evan said, a rare note of satisfaction in his voice. Alara nodded. "Yes, but we must remain vigilant. The core will continue to test us." But today proves something important. When humans and Lycerins work together, respecting each other and the planet, we can achieve what neither could do alone. As they returned to the city, they were greeted by the citizens, who cheered and applauded their efforts. Children waved, Elders smiled, and the general atmosphere of hope was palpable. It was clear that the partnership between the human and the princess had inspired confidence and unity among the people. That night in the quiet of the research center, Evan and Elara reviewed the data one last time. "Tomorrow, we can continue fine-tuning," Evan said. "But we've shown that stabilization is possible. That gives everyone hope." Elara smiled, placing a hand on the human's shoulder. "Hope is a powerful force. Combined with intelligence and collaboration, it can move mountains or stabilize planets. We will face tomorrow together, and no matter what comes, we will find a solution." The twin moons rose over Lysera, casting a gentle glow on the floating cities. Deep within the planet, the energy core pulsed steadily, as if acknowledging the efforts of the human and the princess. Their bond of trust, creativity, and shared purpose had become a force of its own, shaping the future of the planet in ways that science alone could not explain. As they looked out over the glowing rivers and floating towers, both knew that the challenges ahead would require even greater ingenuity and cooperation. But for the first time in many cycles, the people of Lysera felt a renewed sense of security and hope. And at the heart of it all were two unlikely partners, one human, one princess, standing together, determined to protect the next morning. The twin suns rose gently over Lysera, casting a golden glow across the floating cities. The rivers of light shimmered, reflecting the early light, and citizens moved quietly along the platforms, their faces filled with cautious optimism. After the success of the previous day, there was hope in the air, but Evan and Elara knew better than to believe that the planet's energy core had fully stabilized. The core was unpredictable, alive in a way that demanded respect, understanding, and constant attention. Evan and Elara began their day at the research center, surrounded by screens and instruments that monitored the energy core. The readings were more stable than the day before, yet subtle anomalies caught their attention. "These spikes are smaller but still unpredictable," Evan said, tracing the patterns with his finger. "It's as if the core is testing us, seeing if we understand its rhythm." Elara leaned closer, her silver hair brushing her shoulder. "Perhaps it wants more than technical adjustments. Perhaps it wants to know that its people and now its visitors can act in harmony. We must find a way to demonstrate that." Evan nodded thoughtfully. "We've already tried synchronization, matching our adjustments to the pulses. Maybe the next step is to include the citizens more directly. Their emotions and focus seem to influence the core. If they participate consciously, we may be able to guide the energy more effectively." Elara's eyes lit up. "Yes. We need to inspire the people, not just stabilize the instruments. If they work with us, the core will respond naturally." They moved through the streets to gather volunteers from the city. Children, elders, and workers alike joined them, each curious and eager to help. Elara spoke to them gently, explaining that their focus, calmness, and positive intentions could strengthen the planet itself. Evan instructed the citizens on simple ways to connect with the energy, using visualization, focus, and collective calm. Slowly, the crowd began to form a circle in the main plaza, their minds attuned to the planet's rhythm. Evan and Elara led the exercise, guiding the citizens through breathing techniques and mental synchronization. To an observer, it might have looked like a meditation or a game, but the results were remarkable. The energy readings from the core began to smooth, spikes that had seemed impossible to control now falling in rhythm with the citizens' focus. Tremors lessened and the rivers of light below began to glow steadily. "This is incredible," Evan whispered, watching the numbers stabilize. "The core is responding to hope, cooperation, and focus." Elara smiled, her eyes reflecting the glowing energy streams. "Lysera has always thrived on unity. You help me see it from a new perspective. Together, we can guide the core in ways no single person or even technology could achieve alone." The success of the exercise, however, did not mean that all was secure. Later that afternoon, while examining the canyon where the largest fluctuations had originated, Evan noticed a series of energy surges unlike anything they had seen before. The surges were rapid and irregular, traveling along the natural crystal formations deep within the canyon. "This isn't just a minor fluctuation," he said, concern in his voice. "The energy is moving faster than our instruments can fully track. If it continues, it could destabilize the floating cities again." Elara studied the readings. "Then we must act quickly. We cannot allow fear to spread among the citizens. Calmness and precision are our strongest tools." They devised a plan to redirect the energy through the natural crystal pathways of the canyon. The crystals acted as conduits, storing and releasing energy in pulses. By guiding the energy carefully, rather than suppressing it, they could prevent dangerous spikes. Evan proposed adjustments inspired by human problem-solving, and Elara integrated them with Lycerin instruments to create a coordinated system of energy flow. As they began the adjustments, a soft tremor ran through the platform beneath them. Evan steadied himself, while Elara calmly monitored the instruments. "We must move in harmony with the energy, not against it," she reminded him. "Every step, every adjustment must match its rhythm." Hours passed, with the human and the princess working side by side. They fine-tuned instruments, recalibrated sensors, and synchronized their efforts with the pulses of the energy core. Occasionally, the citizens who had joined them in the plaza sent waves of calm, hopeful focus, which Evan and Elara integrated into the system. Each successful adjustment brought the energy closer to balance, and for a time, it seemed that the planet itself was learning to trust their guidance. At one point, a sudden surge threatened to overwhelm the instruments. The readings spiked rapidly, and the canyon trembled. Evan instinctively acted, making a precise adjustment that required both skill and intuition. At the same time, Elara used the Lycerin instruments to amplify the energy flow along the natural crystal paths. The surge stabilized, and a collective sigh of relief echoed through the plaza and canyon alike. Evan looked at Elara, admiration in his eyes. "We did it. Together we redirected the energy without forcing it." Elara nodded, her gaze steady and determined. "Yes. This is only the beginning. The core is alive and it will continue to test us. But today, we have proven that respect, intelligence, and cooperation are more powerful than fear or haste." As evening approached, the citizens gathered to witness the final stabilization exercise. They formed a large circle in the plaza, holding hands and focusing their thoughts on harmony and calm. Evan guided their visualization techniques, while Elara monitored the instruments and adjusted the energy pathways. Slowly, the rivers of light below began to shine more brightly, and the tremors of the floating cities disappeared entirely. The success brought a sense of joy and relief to everyone. Children danced along the platforms, elders smiled with pride, and workers exchanged congratulatory gestures. The partnership between the human and the princess had not only stabilized the energy core, but also strengthened the bonds of trust and cooperation among the citizens. Later that night, Evan and Elara returned to the research center to review the day's data. The energy core had stabilized remarkably, though small fluctuations remained. "The core is still alive," Evan said thoughtfully. "It will continue to challenge us, but it seems to trust our guidance now." Elara smiled. "Trust is earned, not demanded. Today, we earned its trust through patience, cooperation, and understanding. But tomorrow will bring new challenges. We must remain vigilant and creative." Evan nodded, feeling a sense of pride and responsibility. "I've never worked with a world quite like this. The core is alive, the citizens are remarkable, and your guidance is inspiring. Together, I think we can solve anything." Elara placed a hand on his shoulder. "And together we will. Remember, strength is not only in intelligence or power, but in courage, empathy, and the willingness to work with others." As the twin moons rose over Lysera, their soft silver light reflecting off the floating cities, Evan and Elara looked out over the glowing rivers and illuminated towers. Deep within the planet, the energy core pulsed steadily, a living testament to the unity, hope, and determination of those who had guided it. The stars above twinkled, silent witnesses to the partnership between human ingenuity and Lyceran wisdom. The journey ahead would test them further, but for now, there was peace, understanding, and the knowledge that together, no challenge was insurmountable. And somewhere deep in the canyon, the crystal formations shimmered gently, responding to the calm focus and cooperation of the citizens. It was as if the planet itself had acknowledged the efforts of Evan and Elara, recognizing them as true partners rather than mere observers. Evan finally allowed himself a quiet smile. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Elara nodded, her gaze distant but thoughtful. "Yes, and yet the journey is far from over. But I have no doubt that together, we will meet whatever comes, as equals, as friends, and as guardians of Lysera." In that moment, the floating cities glowed brighter than ever. The rivers of light pulsed steadily, and a gentle warmth filled the hearts of all who had participated in the day's efforts. The story of the human and the princess, standing together, had begun to inspire a new era of cooperation, creativity, and hope, a story that would be remembered for generations. Evan felt a sense of connection to Lysera that went beyond science and observation. This was a living world, full of challenges and beauty, and he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something greater, a partnership that combined human ingenuity with Lyceran wisdom, intellect with empathy, courage with understanding. Elara, too, felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had always believed in the potential of her people, but seeing the human perspective added a new dimension to her understanding. Together, they were not just solving a technical problem. They were shaping the future of their planet, one thoughtful action at a time. As the night deepened, the floating cities shone like jewels suspended in the sky, and the energy core pulsed gently beneath them. The citizens slept peacefully, knowing that their world was in safe hands, guided by intelligence, compassion, and the remarkable bond between a human and a princess. The adventure was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. Trust, cooperation, and mutual respect had proven themselves stronger than fear and uncertainty. And as long as Evan and Elara stood together, there was no challenge that could not be met, no puzzle that could not be solved, and no future that could not be brightened. The stars above twinkled in quiet approval, and the twin moons cast their gentle silver glow across the floating cities. Deep within Lysera, the energy core pulsed steadily, alive and responsive, ready to face the challenges of tomorrow with the guidance of two extraordinary partners who had proven that, when united, humans and Lycerans could achieve the impossible. The next morning, the twin suns of Lysera rose slowly over the floating cities, painting the skies in soft shades of pink and gold. The rivers of light flowed steadily below, and the citizens moved about their routines with a quiet sense of confidence. The tremors that had once worried them seemed to have vanished, and the air was filled with a sense of hope. Yet for Evan and Elara, there was still work to be done. The energy core, while stable, was alive and unpredictable. It required constant care, understanding, and cooperation. Evan stood at the edge of a platform, looking down at the glowing rivers of light. "It feels different today," he said thoughtfully. "The core is calmer, but it's still alive in ways we don't fully understand. We need to ensure this stability continues." Elara joined him, her expression calm but determined. "Yes. Stability is more than just measurements and instruments. It is about harmony between the planet, the citizens, and those who guide it. Today, we take the final steps to secure that balance." They began their work at the canyon, where the energy pulses had once been strongest. The crystal formations glimmered faintly in the morning light, each one a conduit of the planet's energy. Evan and Elara examined the crystals, noting patterns in the pulses that seemed almost musical. The energy moves like a song, Evan observed. If we can follow its rhythm perfectly, we can guide it without forcing it. Elara smiled. Then we will become part of its song. Together with the citizens, we can create harmony. They organized the citizens in the plaza once more. Everyone from the youngest children to the eldest elders gathered to participate. Elara spoke to them, her voice carrying across the platforms. The energy core of Lysera responds to harmony. Today, we will guide it together with patience, focus, and hope. Each of you is important. Your calm minds and cooperative hearts will help the planet thrive. Evan added, we will work with the planet, not against it. By observing its rhythms and responding with care, we can ensure stability for our cities and for the future. Each one of you is part of this effort. Together, we are strong. The citizens joined hands, forming a vast circle in the plaza. Children held glowing orbs, elders focused on breathing and calm visualization, and workers projected gentle waves of energy through the instruments Elara had provided. The combined efforts created a powerful field of focus, hope, and unity. Evan and Elara moved through the circle, guiding the flow of energy. They adjusted instruments, fine-tuned the crystal conduits, and synchronized every action with the pulses of the core. Slowly, the reading stabilized. The tremors disappeared entirely, and the rivers of light below shone brighter than they had in decades. "This is it," Evan whispered. "The core is fully responding, it trusts us." Elara nodded, her eyes reflecting the glowing streams of energy. "It is more than trust. It is harmony. The planet and its people are in balance, and that balance is strong because we work together. Humans, Lyserans, and Lysera itself, all united." As the day progressed, they moved to the tallest floating tower from which they could see the entire city. From that height, the beauty of Lysera was breathtaking. Rivers of light snaked through forests, towers floated gracefully above the ground, and citizens moved in harmonious patterns along the platforms. The energy core pulsed steadily, each beat echoing like a heartbeat through the planet. Evan looked at Elara. "It's amazing. Everything seems alive and yet calm. The cities, the forests, the energy, all of it is connected, and we helped it reach this moment." Elara smiled softly. "Yes, but remember, it was not just our work. The citizens themselves guided the energy. Their calm, focus, and cooperation created the stability. We were only part of the process." Evan nodded, feeling a sense of humility. "It's true. Humans can bring creativity and insight, but harmony requires everyone. That is what makes this accomplishment remarkable." Later, they returned to the research center to review the final readings. The energy core showed perfect rhythm, and the instruments indicated that the natural crystal formations were channeling energy smoothly and predictably. There were no unexpected surges or fluctuations. The core had achieved a level of stability that surpassed anything in recent history. "This is the best it has ever been," Elara said. "Lysera will thrive for generations because of what we have done. But more importantly, this shows what humans and Lyserans can achieve when we work together." Evan smiled. "It's not just about the technology or the instruments. It's about understanding, respect, and cooperation. That is something humans bring naturally. And you, Elara, guided us perfectly." Elara laughed lightly. "And you brought insight I could never have imagined. Together we balanced logic and intuition, technology and emotion, humans and Lyserans. That is what makes this story remarkable." As evening fell, the twin moons rose over Lysera, casting soft silver light across the floating cities. Evan and Elara stood atop the tallest tower, looking out at the glowing rivers, shimmering platforms, and the vast forests below. The energy core pulsed steadily beneath them, alive yet perfectly balanced. "The planet feels at peace," Evan said quietly. Elara nodded. "Yes, and not just the planet, the people too feel it. They know that we face the challenge together and that harmony is possible. That knowledge will inspire them for generations. From the tower, they could see children playing along the platforms, elders walking hand in hand, and workers performing their daily tasks with calm confidence. The citizens waved at Evan and Elara, their faces filled with joy and gratitude. It was clear that the story of the human and the princess had become a symbol of hope, cooperation, and inspiration. Evan turned to Elara. "I've never felt such a connection to a world before. Lysera is beautiful, alive, and extraordinary, and I've learned so much from you and your people." Elara smiled warmly. "And we have learned from you, Evan. Humans have a way of seeing possibilities that others may overlook. Your perspective has strengthened Lysera, not just technically, but in spirit." They spent the night planning how to ensure the long-term stability of the energy core. They developed new systems that combined human ingenuity with Lyseran technology, ensuring that both the citizens and the instruments could respond to fluctuations naturally. They trained volunteers, shared knowledge, and created strategies for cooperation that would keep the cities thriving for generations. By dawn, Lysera had entered a new era. The floating cities glowed brightly in the light of the twin suns, the rivers of light flowed steadily, and the citizens moved with confidence and joy. The energy core pulsed in perfect rhythm, a living testament to the combined efforts of humans and Lyserans. Evan and Elara stood once more atop the tallest tower, looking toward the horizon. "We did it," Evan said, a sense of wonder in his voice. "Lysera is safe and its people are thriving." Elara nodded. "Yes, and this is only the beginning. The world will continue to challenge us, but we now know that no obstacle is too great when humans and Lyserans stand together." The citizens gathered below, cheering and celebrating the stability of their world. Children waved, elders smiled, and workers expressed their gratitude. The story of the human and the princess spread quickly, inspiring hope, cooperation, and creativity across the cities. Evan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come as an explorer, curious and cautious, but he had found something far greater, a partnership, a purpose, and a story of unity that transcended worlds. Elara, too, felt a renewed sense of hope. She had always believed in the potential of her people, but the collaboration with a human had shown her new possibilities. Together, they had demonstrated that intelligence, courage, and empathy could solve even the most complex challenges. As the twin moons rose again, casting their gentle light across the floating cities, Evan and Elara stood side by side, their gazes fixed on the horizon. The energy core pulsed steadily beneath them, alive, balanced, and thriving. It was a reminder that cooperation, respect, and understanding could achieve wonders. The stars above twinkled in silent approval, and somewhere deep within the planet, the crystal formations glimmered with life. The human and the princess had proven that together, they could achieve what no one could do alone. Their story would be remembered for generations, not just as a tale of technical achievement, but as a symbol of hope, unity, and the extraordinary potential of humans and Lyserans standing together. Evan turned to Elara one last time. "We've shown that anything is possible when we work together. The planet, the people, the energy, they all responded to our cooperation. This is a moment I will never forget." Elara smiled softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And neither will I. We have created something lasting, a story of unity, courage, and inspiration. Together, no one can stop us." The floating cities shone brilliantly under the twin suns and moons, the rivers of light flowed steadily, and the citizens of Lysera moved with confidence, hope, and joy. The planet had found its balance once more, guided by the partnership of a human and a princess who had dared to work together, trust one another, and believe in the extraordinary potential of cooperation. And as the stars twinkled above, Lysera thrived, alive with energy, harmony, and the lasting legacy of two extraordinary individuals who had proven that, united, humanity and Lycerans could face any challenge and shine brighter than ever before. No one could stop them. The human and the princess stood together,